What's up guys, it's MCJ here, Matt Collins Jones, and today I'm going to be talking to you about something slightly different. I'm going to be talking to you about Microsoft exams. If you didn't know, or you don't know me personally, I'm a big fan of Microsoft exams. I've done nearly 20 over the last 5 years. I'm a MCT and I'm MCP. I've got all the MC, SAs, SEs, all those sorts of good things in the Dynamics and the Power Platform space at the moment. So I'm a big fan of exams, I'm a big fan of taking exams, and there's a new kid on the block, a new exam that's dropped, and I've been seeing loads of questions pop up online about, is this exam right? What is this exam? Do I need to know this? Do I need to know that? So I thought I would drop a quick video on what this new exam is and some of the most commonly asked questions and try and answer them for you here today. So the exam that we're going to be talking about is the PL-600, the Microsoft Power Platform Solution Architect exam. So what is it exactly? It's a new exam that is designed to measure people to be able to be solution architects. Or that's the guide for it. Is all these exams recently are to try and test the skills of people that are in those roles. So my role in my current company is a solution architect in D365 and Power Platform. But what exactly does that mean? So my job role mainly consists of analysing systems, seeing what we can do, what we can't do, look at all the different integrations that are possible, solve complex problems to solutions that people have, and do all sorts of other things in terms of an overall solution that is right for the customer, varying in technology, whether we use Dynamics, whether we use Azure, whether we use parts of the Power Platform. All these things are things that solution architects need to understand and need to analyse as part of creating and deploying a solution. So this exam is to kind of measure some of those skills, and just like the functional exams and things like that, they're going to be testing you on things that they think the Microsoft solution architects will be using on a day-to-day basis. So who is PL-600 aimed at? It's aimed at those solution architects. Now, don't worry, if you're not a solution architect, they're not going to stop you at the door. That's not the point of this. The point is to help test some of those skills and kind of validate some of those skills in line with Microsoft best practices and what Microsoft believes are the best way to do things. For instance, if you are deploying a system that is going to store some non-business critical data and you're only going to have maybe a couple of hundred records, then you're probably going to opt for a solution like SharePoint because that has a lot of advantages over something like Dataverse in terms of cost and everything else. However, if you're using business critical data and you want to be storing millions and millions of records, up to maybe 6 terabytes, then you're going to need to put things in Dataverse because SharePoint can't hold that sort of data. And there's a lot of implications around trying to architect a solution that would do that. So this is aimed at people that kind of know a lot of technology, know different parts of the Power Platform, know different parts of solution architecture, to then come together and deploy and create solutions that are in line with Microsoft best practices and in line with what Microsoft believe is probably the best solution for the customer, and also what you believe. So what's the difference? So this is a new exam. This is the PL-600 exam, and one of the questions I've received is, what is the difference between the PL-600 exam and the MB-600 exam? And that's a very good question. So the MB-600 exam was the Microsoft Dynamics 365 and Power Platform Solution Architect. So it's very similar in name, but the fact that it mentions Dynamics 365 and the fact that its prefix was MB, meaning that these were the Microsoft Dynamics series of questions, means that that exam was more focused towards solution architects building solutions inside of Dynamics 365, whereas this Power Platform one seems to be aimed more agnostically than that. So it's kind of the MB one is kind of more focused towards Dynamics. Power Platform one seems to be more focused towards the Power Platform generally, maybe talking about Dataverse generally. That being said, if you don't know Dynamics, I probably wouldn't recommend you doing this exam because there will be stuff about Dynamics 365 on there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through now the skills measured between the two exams. because this will give you a really good indication as to what will be on the exam. I always recommend going to the skills measured for any exam that you may take, because this will give you some insight into what you need to prepare for the exam. So these are the two skills measured. On the left we have the MB600 and on the right we have the new PL-600. The MB600 was updated in July, so I'm going to scroll down until we get to the updated skills measured, which is down here, and we'll scroll down until we get to the skills measured here. So one thing I did notice when I was comparing these two exams is that they're very similar in terms of the skills measured. So the first section being perform solution envisioning and requirement analysis is essentially the same thing in the PL-600 exam, but it's weighted a little bit more, so it's 35 to 40 instead of 30 to 35. But a lot of the skills are the same. Evaluating the business requirements, it's the same. Identify solution components, so identify Power Platform solution components. That's a key indicator there that they'll probably be expecting you to understand a lot more about things like Power Automate, things like Power Virtual Agents, for instance, and other things, whereas you may not have gotten those questions in the MB600 exam. So we need to know some of these things. And then the next section, identify information and metrics. So again, understanding business processes. This one goes into a little bit more detail. Review key success criteria. Assess the organization's risk factors, identify business process automation opportunities. So again, heavily pushing that automation, that RPA, that Power Automate, cloud flows to try and get some more automation and make things more efficient. Identify existing solutions and systems. So it's identifying what we have there at the moment, where we should be storing things, where they're currently stored, and all those sorts of stuff. The capture the requirements. Again, it's a very common thing for any consultant or any solution architect to capture requirements. This should not be too out of the ordinary there. And perform fit gap analysis. So like where do we have a gap in a solution that we may be suggesting to a customer? Where can we fit this into something that's existing, or where do we need to make some sort of remediation and find those gaps between the two and try and plug that hole with something else? Then the next section is solution architect solution. So in the last one it was weighted at 45 to 50. In the new one it's weighted at 40 to 50, 45. But again, a lot of these things are the same. You will notice that the second one down though is design customizations for Dynamics 365 apps or app source apps. And we don't have that in the new PL-600 exam. Now that's not to say that you're not going to have to understand a Dynamics 365 app. We can see in that perform gap fit analysis up here, evaluate D365 apps and app source options to solve requirements. You're going to have to know what is available in Dynamics 365 and the first party apps that they offer. So I'm thinking about customer service, sales, field service, marketing, and things like omnichannel as well. Those sorts of things will probably be tested on in this exam to make sure that you know what those are. However, it's not going to ask you to design customization. So it says just design customization for existing apps. So again, I don't know, it's kind of funny that existing apps is probably meaning those first party apps in hindsight. So yeah, you probably don't need to know Dynamics 365 to know this. A lot of the other things are very standard. Design application lifecycle management, using solutions to move things through, using DevOps and stuff like that. Be integral to understanding this. Design data models, again, something that's similar on both sides, and design data integrations, again, very similar on both sides. It's going to be integrations between things, and we even do see design integrations between Power Platform solutions and D365 apps. So they're going to expect you to know D365 apps and how you can integrate them with Power Platform solutions. So good things to brush up on. Interestingly, one of the things that wasn't tested on the MB600 is design a security model. So designing a security model is very key to most businesses. Most businesses need to know that that a data is secure, that it's in the right place, that it's you're going to be able to update things easily, and you can have that granular level of security. So it says design business units and team structures, design security roles, design field level security. All those three things are Dynamics 365 or Dataverse security things. So when they talk about design a security model, one of the main components, or some of the main components of this, is using Dataverse and that security model. Dataverse or Dynamics 365, so you're trying to know those things too. Design security models for complex requirements, identify Azure Active Directory groups and app registrations, identify data loss preventions for the solution, determine how external users will access the solution. All of these things are going to be tested on in the exam. It's one of these main sections, so I would highly recommend you brush up on your knowledge of these areas if you are not up to speed with them at the moment. And the last section is implement the solution. So we have weighted a little less in the new exam, 15 to 20, a little higher in the old exam, 20 to 25, but essentially it's the same things. Evaluate the solution. We do have another one, ensure the solution conforms to API limits. API limits are very important at the moment, so you do need to be aware of those when you're designing any solution. Resolve automation conflicts and resolve integration conflicts. On the last exam, it was just validate security, so we didn't actually get asked about creating a security model, just is this security model right? The new exam is going to test you on that, so good thing to be aware of. And then the go live stuff. So all these things are things that most consultants or most solution architects will probably be doing day in, day out. They may just test your knowledge of some other areas. So from reading through those skills, I would expect questions on Dynamics 365, all the first-party apps. I'd expect questions on the Power Platform, the Power Apps, so Canvas model-driven portals. I expect questions on RPA and cloud flows inside of Power Automate. I expect questions on PVA, questions on Azure, how you're handling that, security questions. I'd expect you to know quite a lot about the Power Platform to take this exam and to pass it. Microsoft are really pushing this solution architecture role and technical architecture role, so this is something that I think would be very beneficial for most people to do. So some of the other questions. I've passed MB600, should I take PL-600? That's kind of a question that is a little bit ambiguous. My first answer would be yes. I'm a big fan of exams. I like taking exams. I like pushing myself and learning new things, and therefore when a new exam comes out, it's really good to go in, validate that knowledge and attain a new certificate. I said nearly 20 exams in 5 years, so you can tell that I'm a big avid learner as well as a teacher. So taking exams I always think is beneficial. However, if it's not something that you want to do, if you don't enjoy exams, if it's not something that you need to do for your business or anything else, then maybe you ought to leave this for a while, but I never see any harm in doing a good exam. I build Power Apps and flows. I build Power Apps and occasionally flows. I have no knowledge of D365. Should I take this exam? Is another question that I've got. My answer is probably not. Although Microsoft are trying to switch to be more agnostic of the platform and less focused on Microsoft Dynamics 365, and that's why they brought out the PL-100 and PL-200, this exam, just like the MB600, is going to cover some things that are part of Dynamics 365. If you have no knowledge of those things or no knowledge of Dataverse, then you don't find it a real struggle to pass this exam. As I pointed out just in the security part, the first three things are all Dataverse or all Dynamics security model aspects, not Power Platform generally. Microsoft Dataverse or Dynamics 365 is what Microsoft sees as the core of their data structures and data sources. They want it to be the go-to data source for everything. It's why they've brought Dataverse to Teams. It's why they've made that version part of your Office 365 license. It's why you can build up to a certain point in Teams before you deploy to a full Dataverse model. It's why they're bringing model-driven apps to Dataverse for Teams. All of these things are things that are really key to Microsoft's plan. So if you don't know Dataverse, it's probably a good idea to kind of get on board with it now and start to learn it if you're a Power Platform consultant or Power Platform solution architect. Because you're going to need to weigh up Dataverse versus other options as well, like Azure SQL or something on premise or anything else. So I would probably suggest that you brush up on those skills, and if you really want to take the exams to test your skill levels. Again, this is the successor to the MB600. So the MB600 is actually being retired in June of 2021. So the PL-600 will be the only one you can do going forward. Another question. I work for a Microsoft partner. We're trying to attain a competency. Should I take this exam? Is it required? So there's good news and bad news with this one. No, it's not required for a competency. You do not require any of the solution architect exams for the silver or the gold business applications cloud competency. So that is one good thing. So you don't need to take those exams. You do need to take some of the others like the MB200 or the PL-200. So the Microsoft Dynamics and Power Platform Solution Functional Consultant and the Power Platform Functional Consultant exams. And you may need to take some others. But these two are not required for, either of these two are not required for competency. That being said, Microsoft recently announced a low-code specialization that enables partners to sort of promote the fact that they are partners, that they specialize in low-code areas, and this may be seen as favorable to customers that want a no-code, low-code solution. So this specialization does actually require a solution architect exam. So at the moment, the requirements are 5 people to pass PL-100 and PL-200. 2 of those 5 people to pass the PL-400 exam. So that's the Power Platform Developer exam. And 1 person to pass the MB600 exam. So the Dynamics Solution Architect exam. That being said, with the new Power Platform Solution Architect exam coming out and with the MB600 being retired in June, I assume that certification will be swapped over for the PL600. So if you are looking to get that low-code specialization to look more favorable to customers, I would highly recommend taking the PL600 exam. Another question that comes up all the time is, this exam is currently in beta. What does that mean? So Microsoft have released over the last 2 years, several exams into beta. So the beta program is a way for Microsoft to get people to take the exams early on. These are where they are maybe testing some questions. They're trying to understand the validity of the questions. They're trying to understand whether they are accurate, whether they are the right skill level for the exam, whether they are relevant to the role that they are specifying. So this being a solution architect one, I wouldn't have a question on how to create a field, for instance, because that's a very simple thing. This is more testing those high level things. So the beta program is there to assess the exam and make sure that it's right for the audience. The beta exams usually last for a few months before they come out of beta. I think Microsoft require a threshold of people to actually take these exams, and once they hit that threshold, they'll release the exam. So once they have enough data to understand, is this a good exam or is this a bad exam, or are these questions relevant, and they can remove them or add new ones as they start to roll out the exam. So the beta program can last anywhere between 1 to 5-6 months. If you take the exam during beta, you will not get your score straight away. That's a big thing that a lot of people are caught out on. They don't know that they won't get the score straight away. It does say that the exams are not marked straight away. They actually get marked after the end of the beta. So if you take the exam in beta and the exam is released out of beta a week later, you will not get your results immediately. If you take the exam immediately after it exits beta, and you will get your exam results immediately. So if you take it in beta, you can expect anywhere between, I think it says 1 to 3 weeks after the beta ends before you get your results. I do see a lot of people jumping up and down online about wanting the results to their exam that they took in beta, but it's still in beta and it probably will be for another couple of months. So you just need to be aware of that if you're going to take it in beta, or you can just wait for it to go live and that'll be fine. And that was the last question. If I take the exam in beta, when will I get my results? It is after the beta ends. So usually they say within sort of 2 weeks of the exam coming out of beta. One of my previous experiences is I had to wait nearly a month to get one of my exam results out of beta. So timing may vary, but you will get your exam results eventually. You just need to be a little patient and just keep checking back on your transcript to see whether it's there, or you should get an email through to the email address that you signed up for the exam as well. And with that is the end of my questions and the end of this video. I hope you found it useful. If you did, drop a like down below. Don't forget to click that subscribe button. If you have any more questions about the PL-600, except what's on it, because I don't know the answers, please drop a comment down below or reach out to me on Twitter at D365Geek, and I can try and answer and try and help where I can. But with that, ciao for now.